Since 1984, they have slaughtered more than 30,000 civilians, among them infants, children, old men and women, from farmers to craftsmen, all sections of our society. They have killed innocent civilians. We call on the world to acknowledge this. Mr. Biden, please recognize this terrorist organization. And in addition, you should also acknowledge...
Mark Meirowitz is a professor at the State University of New York Maritime College. Professor, the State Department's initial statement on the killing of those 13 Turkish citizens has the phrase, "if reports are confirmed," and it was that word "if" that upset Ankara. Now, after massive backlash, Antony Blinken affirmed our view that PKK terrorists bear responsibility. Why do you think the U.S. came out with that initial conditional statement, which got Turkey riled up, and how much damage do you think that caused?
I wouldn't overstate the original statement. I looked at it. It was not so problematic, in my opinion, because it stated very clearly that the PKK is a designated terrorist entity. That's the essential key point. That's more important than the word "if." And clearly, after all of the kerfuffle with this, it was all cleared up. PKK is on the terrorist list. And as indicated in your report, Secretary of State Blinken and Ambassador Satterfield have reaffirmed the idea that PKK is responsible for this. So I think this is, at this point, I think it's been clarified. Furthermore, the conversation which Secretary Blinken had with Meirowitz Çavuşoğlu, the foreign minister, was, I think, a very good conversation, at least from the readout. I didn't hear the conversation, but it really covered all of the outstanding issues. So if, sometimes some things come out of problems that are actually helpful, I think it was good to have the conversation. The next step would be, of course, to have President Erdogan have a conversation with President Biden. That's very, very important. They haven't had a conversation. So for better or for worse, this situation precipitated, this tragedy for Turkey and the Turkish people precipitated an important conversation and in the interaction between the Secretary of State and the foreign minister. So I think that's a good position to be in and a good status to go on now to have more serious discussions on all of the issues, which was the nature of the conversation between the Secretary of State and the foreign minister, looking at the whole array of issues. And there are quite a lot of issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, speaking of which, Blinken spoke with his Greek and Turkish counterparts on the same day. What kind of developments do you expect in the coming days when it comes to conflicts in the Mediterranean?
Well, that's a tough one to predict. If you look at the history here of Cyprus and the situation going back to the 1970s, where the United States actually boycotted Turkey as a result of the situation in Cyprus, and the fact that Turkey, in fact, went in to rescue the Turkish citizens of Cyprus. But because of the influence of Greece and so forth, the United States put a boycott on Turkey. That's very worrisome. That's why I think Turkey needs to tread very lightly and slowly on this one. And as far as the United States, I don't know that the United States, again, has an attention span for this issue right now. Hopefully it can be calmed down and not become a military conflict. We've had some situations between Turkey and Greece that are worrisome. Really can't have that. The negotiations that started should continue. The United States is encouraging that negotiation, but at its base, it's really the guarantor countries, UK, Turkey, Greece, and the Greek Cyprus and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus that need to be able to resolve this issue. There are a lot of other bigger issues, Syria, the S-400, all of which were covered in this amazing conversation between Blinken and Çavuşoğlu, and sort of shows you the menu of what's out there. It's not just the Eastern Med, and it cannot be solved. I wouldn't be that optimistic about it because the way it's set up right now, it's really Turkey on one side and all the other countries on the other side, and that just not a very imbalanced situation that doesn't give enough credence to Turkey's claims and take seriously Turkey's claims. And I think that the Cyprus conflict itself, or let's say the Cyprus issue, needs to be resolved. That's really the crux of it. But I think when you talk about valuable resources and dividing those up, that could be a win-win for everybody. So instead of fighting about it, why doesn't everybody get together and try to see if they can work out a winning deal to share those resources? And that means that the Greek Cypriots have to share with the Turkish Cypriots. And that has not been their attitude. And that's unfair. And the Turkish Cypriots live on that island and need to be treated with respect and seriously. And the fact that the resources need to be shared between all the citizens of the island.
Okay, all right, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Mark Meirowitz, professor at SUNY Maritime College, joining us from New York.
It's a pleasure.